Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. While we wait for everybody else to join the webinar, if you could just drop your name and location in the chat, we'd love to hear where you're joining us from. Welcome, Bob. Great to see another Kansas City local. Patrick, great to hear from you. Beth, thanks for joining us. Give it a couple more minutes here. For those of you that are just now joining us, if you could just give us drop your name and location in the chat, we would love to hear where everybody's joining us from. Diane, Kansas City, another local, love to see it. Mark, St. Louis, local to Betsy, awesome. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, and hopefully we'll have a couple of other people join throughout the time. But in the meantime, for best viewing purposes, if you guys can click view and presenter view, you should be able to see the content and then myself and Betsy pretty well as we go through the webinar. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so today we have some really new, exciting content to go through with everybody. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop the questions in the chat box, and we will make sure to answer those when we get to the Q&A session at the end. So today I am joined with my coworker Betsy, whom is from our St. Louis office, and I'll of course let her give her own bio. But my name is Kayla, for those of you that do not know me, and I am Director of Sales here at E3 XPS. I have been with E3 for about 6 years now, 6 years this month actually, which is exciting. And through that time, trade shows and this industry has really just developed into my passion. I really love with meeting with clients, talking about their program, get a better understanding of their industry and their niche, and then really helping them develop a solution that is designed really around all of their goals and functional requirements. I will hand it over to Betsy from here, and she can tell you a little bit about herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Betsy. I've been with E3 for almost 10 years now, and I started off in our Kansas City office, but moved to St. Louis in 2017 to help E3 develop the Eastern Missouri territory, and I've been out here ever since. So thanks to all our STLers online. One of my favorite things about working in the trade show industry is just helping businesses solve their trade show challenges. Every company I connect with has its own personality within its own specific industry. So I get to, connect with people and learn about a vast number of products and best practices within a number of industries, and it's super fun. And then just getting to help our clients create memorable experiences through creativity. It's kind of like putting the cherry on top. Love what I do. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you, Betsy. And I have to agree. Seeing all these experiences come to life on our staging area is one of my favorite parts of our process. So if you haven't ever been to our facility, please reach out and we'd love to get a time scheduled for a tour. Okay, let's get into the webinar. So today, we are going to first talk about traditional ROI, the numbers everybody likes to hear. Then we're going to go through a new concept called ROX, or return on experience. We're going to walk you through the framework and the science behind ROX. We're going to show you how to implement it and measure it. And then we're going to walk you through some real world examples, and then we'll finish up with some Q&A at the end. Again, if you do have any questions as we go through the webinar, please feel free to drop those into the chat box, and we will make sure to address those during that Q&A session. So before we really get into all of the information, I'd love if everybody could take a couple of minutes, scan this QR code for me, and answer the poll question, which is, how do you currently measure trade show success? So again, you can scan that QR code, and then it'll populate a couple answers for you to click on. So just let us know, are you focusing on cost per lead, numbers of lead generated, brand awareness metrics, or maybe it's even lead quality and conversations? Give you guys a couple seconds or so. All right. So we have at least two people that are looking more towards numbers of lead generated. We have one that is looking for brand awareness metrics, and a big whopping four that are looking for lead quality and conversations. Unfortunately, I have to kind of go back and forth to update the information. So as we get towards the end, I'll reference back to this and see if there are any other people that were able to interact with that QR code for me. Okay, so we're gonna kind of dive a little bit back into ROI for a minute. So we all know that ROI is important. It really tells us how many leads were generated per dollar spent. And I'm sure your CEOs is like ours and really, really loves to see those numbers. But here's the thing, ROI is missing something crucial. It doesn't capture the experience and how that experience actually drives business outcomes. So think about it this way. Have you ever had a moment at an event? Maybe it's a great conversation, a demo that really clicked, or just a feeling of genuinely welcomed by a company. And that made you feel like you wanted to do business with them. That's exactly what we're talking about when we say ROX. So ROI asks how many leads, where ROX asks how effectively did we transform visitors into qualified, engaged prospects who are actually ready to move forward. Because let's be honest, one deeply engaged prospect often delivers way more value than 10 surface level interactions. So what exactly is this ROX term I keep throwing out? Return on experience. ROX measures the impact of the attendee's experience. So specifically, how those experiences transform visitors into prospects, advocates, and even customers. Some people also call it ROE or return on an emotion, which that is exactly what it is. There are a lot of different terms out there, but we like to really focus on the experience. So ROX focuses on emotional impact that creates deeper connections and actually accelerates your sales cycle. But why does this work? ROX is built on research proven emotion that truly drive business relationships. So, little key insight for you guys, business is personal. So next, I'm going to walk you through the 3 elements of ROX that we use to calculate an ROX score. In short, the 3 elements are HAM, which is an acronym for how we want people to feel throughout the experience. Then we're going to talk about quality of engagement that you're having within the space. And we're going to finish up a little bit with the impact the experience had on your business. So before we really get into that first element, or HAM, I want to give you a little bit of background of how this was developed. So for years, marketers have been hearing the same advice. You have to evoke emotions to drive brand loyalty. But here's what nobody's telling us is, what emotion is that? Is it fear? Probably not. Is it happiness? Hopefully. Is it excitement? We were all just guessing. So in 2021, amidst the uncertainty of COVID, when people were really craving that real human connection to find new ways to drive business results, how companies decided to find out once and for all what emotions we're trying to evoke. So what they did was spend an entire year researching this exact question. Which specific emotions do you need to evoke to actually drive business? So here's what they discovered, and it was absolutely game changing. There are 5 specific emotions that create the right environment for business relationships to form. So that's all where HAM comes in. It's an acronym for those 5 emotions. They're hopeful, adventurous, active, accepted, and motivated. So Betsy's going to actually break each one of those down individually in a little bit. But just for now, remember that HAM is the first key element of ROX. Really, this isn't guesswork anymore. It's science-backed emotion. So why does this HAM framework actually work? And it comes down to this. HAM captures emotional drivers behind people's decisions. So when you hit these 5 emotions, you're not just having interactions, you're building meaningful, lasting business relationships. So here's what's really happening on a scientific level. When attendees experience these HAM emotions, you're actually triggering a specific chemical cocktail in their brains. The hopeful and adventurous emotions release serotonin and dopamine. Serotonin is released when they feel confident and they have a sense of self-worth. Dopamine is released when creating excitement and anticipation. So then when they feel accepted and welcomed, that really triggers oxytocin production, which is a bonding chemical that creates trust and connection. And here is the powerful part. All of these chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, combined actually produce happiness. So when you design an experience around HAM, you're literally creating happiness in attendees' brains through measurable neurochemical responses. So think about it. We're all looking for emotional connections, and these connections are deeply personal. Again, business is personal. So that's exactly what drives business forward. This is why we do events in the first place. Even in B2B, business is personal. So HAM creates a direct link between those emotions and the actual measurable business outcomes, the numbers. Instead of hoping an experience will somehow lead to business, you're strategically designing experiences that become growth engines for your company, all backed by actual brain science. So next, we're going to look at the second element of ROX, which is the engagement quality. So when we think about the second element, we're not just looking at engagement as a whole. We're actually talking about measuring how deeply attendees interact with your experience. There are three specific types of engagement that we want to measure. So we have emotional engagement, cognitive engagement, and behavioral engagement. Again, Betsy's going to dive into each one of these individually for you. But the important thing to understand is that all three have to work together. Basically, you can't just have people feeling good. They also need to think and take action. So that's how we're going to create a really maximum ROX impact. So now that we have the first two elements of ROX, we have one last, which is called business impact. So the third element is really where it gets customized specifically to your company. Every business has different goals, different metrics, and those are really what matters for your success. The critical part to measuring ROX effectively is understanding what your goals and metrics are. This is the part that connects everything back to the real business results. It's one thing to create people feeling good and deep engagement, but ROX really helps you determine purchase intentions and partnership potential. And if it's done right, then this can be determined before any business has been even conducted. This is where we again prove that your experience and even your investment is driving real and measurable business growth. So from here, I'm going to turn it over to Betsy, and she's going to walk you through exactly how we measure each one of these elements for ROX.
Great. Thanks, Kayla.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about measurement. I know you all have people to answer to, whether that's your boss, your CFO, or your board, and everyone wants to know, are we actually getting the return on this investment? Are these experiences actually driving results? If so, how do we prove it? That's exactly what we're going to dive into, and we'll break down each part of the ROX framework so that you can see exactly how to measure it and measure your success. Okay, well, let's start with the HAM framework. Now, as marketers working with sales teams, we naturally gravitate towards the H and the M, hopeful and motivated, because these are really the foundation of solution selling and persuasion. But starting from the beginning, the H in HAM represents hopeful. So how do we actually measure whether someone's hopeful when they leave our booth? Well, we look for signs of optimism. We listen for future-focused comments like, we're growing fast and I can see us needing this solution down the road. We note when attendees show genuine interest in a new solution. Essentially, we're collecting data on whether attendees believe you have a solution to their problem, whether that came through the content they received, the connections they made, or just the overall experience they had in your space. Next is A for active, and this is all about participation. We want attendees to play an active role in your booth space, not just walk through passively. Are they having real conversations and asking meaningful questions, or are they just going through the motions? This can be measured by 1, time spent in your booth, 2, how many people actually interacted with your product or staff, 3, energy levels. What were their energy levels like? An actively engaged attendee looks and feels different from someone who's just killing time. The second A in HAM is accepted, and this one's huge, but it's often overlooked. This is about how you make people feel from the moment they approach your booth. Are you welcoming them? How are you guiding them through the experience? Do you make them feel like we're in the right place or with the right people? Do they have a sense of belonging, that feeling that makes them want to come back and experience it again? This emotional component is what transforms a booth visit into a relationship. And next is adventurous. And this is also an A that companies often miss, but it's so important. You want to get attendees just slightly out of their comfort zone, enough to make it fun and memorable. Think Is there an activity we can implement that's going to make them think differently? Once we find that activity, we measure adventurous through their willingness to explore demos, whether they ask curious questions or if they're willing to try something new. Adventure doesn't mean extreme, it just means engaging their curiosity. And finally, motivated. This is about action. Are attendees going to take what they learned and connections they made and actually do something with it? Are they motivated to take action on the content they absorbed, the activities they participated in, or the people they met? Did we move them down the sales funnel and remove mental obstacles that might be getting in the way? This is where experience turns into business results. Okay, well, now let's break down the next elements of ROX, engagement levels, starting with emotional engagement. Emotional engagement is what you want them to feel during and after your event. Look for brand affinity, people actually smiling and engaged, not buried in their phones. You can feel when people are genuinely having a good time and talking to each other. The room feels full of energy, executives are happy, and you have a real conversation density happening. Next is cognitive engagement, and this is about learning. What do you want them to actually understand and retain? You can measure this through knowledge retention, participation in polls, Q&A, valuable hallway conversations that just happen to happen after sessions, and genuine peer-to-peer discussions. When people are cognitively engaged, they're not just present, they're mentally invested. And the next element of engagement that can be measured is behavioral engagement. And this one is about measuring attendee actions. What do you want them to actually do in your space or after visiting your booth? This could include taking pictures of your booth, visiting with other exhibitors, sharing on social media, responding to post-event surveys, using your event hashtag, exchanging contact information, or participating in gamification or scheduling demos or meetings. When you see a high number of badge scans and one-on-one meetings happening, you know you've got behavioral engagement. And the final element of ROX is business impact. And this is where it gets customized to your specific company. Each organization has different metrics based on their business objectives. Some key metrics could include lead quality scores, conversion rates, deal size, customer lifetime value, referral generation rates, and sales velocity. You can see the examples on the slide focus on measuring whether or not the booth experience increased pipeline quality, increased sales efficiency, and increased long-term value, which are three great objectives for any company. But the key is choosing metrics that actually matter for your business objectives. Okay, I know what you all are thinking. This sounds great, but how do we actually measure all of this? Totally get it. We've talked about emotions and engagement, but at the end of the day, you need numbers that you can actually put into a spreadsheet and show your boss. This next section, we're going to talk about and go through the actual calculations step by step so you can see exactly how to turn these concepts into measurable data. Okay, so here's how we calculate ROX. We generate three scores: a HAM score, an engagement quality score, and a business impact score. We add them up and we divide by 3, and you get your ROX score. The beauty of this is that all three elements are both measurable and customizable to your specific business needs. So let's break this down. For the HAM score, it's pretty straightforward. Add up your 5 emotional scores and divide by 5. But let's talk about how you actually collect this data. You'll use surveys distributed to attendees, sponsors, other exhibitors, or even event producers. The key is keeping it simple, asking the right questions using a 10-point scale, and collecting the information sooner rather than later. You can approach this 2 ways. You can ask direct emotional state questions like, after visiting our space, did you feel more hopeless or hopeful, hesitant or adventurous, passive or active, rejected or accepted, uninspired or motivated? Or you can ask outcome-focused questions like, how optimistic do you feel about solving your challenges after visiting our space? Or how motivated are you to take the next steps? Both approaches capture the specific emotional states that drive business relationships. The key is getting feedback from the people who actually experienced your booth. And remember, you're looking for an 8.6 average score, which research shows indicates a high likelihood that meaningful business connections were formed. For engagement quality, you average your three engagement scores: emotional, cognitive, and behavioral, then divide by 3. Here's what's important to understand. Each type of engagement is scored from 1 to 10, and then they all work together. Emotional engagement measures how people feel during the interactions. Are they excited, enthusiastic? Cognitive engagement measures mental involvement. Do they find the content thought-provoking? Behavioral engagement is about actions. Are they participating, asking questions, showing genuine interest? A higher engagement quality score doesn't just strengthen connections, it actually enhances the overall impact of your ham score too. So think of it this way. If someone's feeling accepted and motivated, high ham, but they're not taking any actions, low behavioral engagement, your overall ROX score will reflect that gap. All 3 components need to work together for the maximum impact. And for business impact, let's start by choosing 3 to 5 metrics that matter most to your business. Things like lead quality, conversion rates, sales velocity, deal size, customer lifetime value, or referral generation rate. Score each metrics from 1 to 10, then average them. For example, if your score for lead quality is at an 8, conversion rate at a 7, and deal size at a 9, your business impact score is 8. This is where ROX becomes truly customized to your business. A software company might focus on demo requests and trial signups, while a manufacturing company might prioritize RFP requests and partnership discussions. The beauty of ROX is that it adapts to whatever actually matters for your specific business goals.
Okay, so now that we hopefully understand what exactly ROX is and how to measure it, let's talk about how you actually put this into practice. I'm going to walk you through a real case study so you can see exactly how this works in the real world and what kind of results you can expect from properly implemented ROX strategies. Before we dive directly into the case study, I know you're all excited for it, but let's really look at the implementation strategy first. It really comes down to 4 key steps. First, we design with ham in mind. You're literally planning the emotional journey for each person who visits the booth. Think of it as crafting a memorable experience that resonates on a personal level. Next, we execute across all 3 dimensions that we talked about. So emotional, cognitive, and behavioral engagement. You're not just capturing attention, you're fostering meaningful interactions and encouraging positive behaviors. The third is actually crucial. You want to measure both emotions and the business outcomes. We use ham to track the emotional responses and combine that with the conversion metrics. This is going to help ensure that you're aligning experiences with actual business goals. Finally, and just like any other strategy, you optimize continuously. You refine your approach based on both the emotional and business feedback so that each trade show delivers better results than the last. So let's get into the case study. La Aurora, whom is a premium cigar company headquartered in the Dominican Republic, came to us with some specific challenges. First, they previously exhibited with one of their distributors, so they really needed to reestablish their presence in the US market, but as an industry leader. And they were the oldest or I guess they are, the oldest cigar manufacturer in the Dominican Republic. So they wanted to do it with elegance and authenticity to really help tell their story. They didn't just want a flashy display. Second, they wanted to showcase their incredible 120-year legacy in premium cigar craftsmanship. And let me tell you, that is a lot of heritage to communicate effectively in one setting. So, third, they needed to blend multiple elements to properly tell that unique brand story. They needed an experience that could blend heritage, hospitality, the product display, and of course, elegance all into one cohesive area. The plan was to launch this new experience at PCA, the Premium Cigar Association Expo. So, just like any other first impression or grand opening, the stakes were high. After doing a full discovery into the background, the goals, and their functional needs, here's what we created together. This experience really continues to be one of my favorites. As part of our process, we do stage the exhibit before each show, and we still, to this day, get a lot of people that compliment the experience and how impactful it is. So after our original discovery meeting and understanding exactly who La Aurora is, we didn't want to just build another exhibit with product displays. We focused on design elements that would create a complete sensory and emotional experience. Well, why is this so important? First, we wanted to engage all of the senses. So we have the sight, sound, smell, and touch to create something truly memorable within a setting that helps foster these important business relationships. Second, this approach helped create an emotional connection with the attendees. They weren't just showcasing the cigars in this setting. They were telling a story and inviting people into that story. So, the fun part, what were those results? By crafting an experience rather than just a conventional booth, La Aurora elevated their presence in a very crowded market. They stood out through authenticity and creativity, and not just through bigger signs and flashy displays. The experience wasn't just well received, it won Best in Show at the expo, and it was absolutely the highlight of my month. This recognition demonstrates the powerful impact of blending heritage with innovation. But let's think about what this really means. The approach didn't just create a booth. It created an experience that resonates so deeply with attendees that industry experts recognize the experience as the best. This shows you the importance of designing experiences that emotionally connect with people. So as we look at the next slide, we're going to actually go into how this can translate into measurable business success through our ROX framework. So I'm sure you're all wondering, how could all of that translate into something that we can measure? So we broke it down for you. The overall ROX score of 8.6 tells the complete story of why they won Best in Show, and more importantly, why that award actually mattered for their business. Let's look at each element of HAM individually. We have a score of 8.2, which proves our exhibit design achieved exactly what it was set out to do. The accepted part of HAM, the second to the last one here, which is also a 10 out of 10 score, shows that attendees didn't just admire the booth from a distance, they felt genuinely welcomed and were able to engage deeply with the La Aurora team. Next, we have engagement quality, which was a overall score of 8.3. And this validates that our solution worked on multiple levels. Again, that perfect cognitive score, so 10 out of 10, means we didn't just create something beautiful. We created an experience that made people think, learn, and see La Aurora as a thought leader. But here's the real validation of our approach, the business impact score of 9.3. We have another perfect score for the conversion rate with a 10 out of 10. And that proves everything we designed together drove actual business results. And those results really speak for themselves. The PCA show became their highest grossing month for 2024 and 2025, with a 91% increase in revenue year over year, 17% growth in average order size, and 50 to 100 new partners gained per show. So this is exactly what happens when a great design meets strategic thinking. You don't just win awards, you'll also win business. The ROX framework proves that La Aurora's success wasn't just a form of recognition. It was memorable, sustainable growth. So let's rewind a little bit to our implementation strategy. With the last step of the strategy being optimizing continuously, even with these outstanding results for La Aurora at 8.6 of ROX, they don't just simply use the exact same strategy year to year. We evaluate after each show and make strategic adjustments to ensure that they continue to see these results each and every time they step a foot on the trade show floor. So now that you've seen exactly what ROX looks like in action, and I'm sure we have some questions at the end, but Betsy is going to walk you through the broader patterns that we see when companies implement this strategy. Plus, we're going to show you some practical tips for starting an ROX strategy at your own events. Betsy?
Thanks, Kayla. All right, well, let's talk about what happens when you actually implement ROX, the real benefits and impact on your business. We've shown you the framework, walked through the math, and shared a case study. Now, let's look at the patterns we've observed across multiple clients and industries so you can see what success looks like. All right, well, here's what our research shows. The more you tap into attendees' emotions, the higher your conversion rates. You're looking for that 8.6 or higher HAM score. That's the magic number that indicates high likelihood that connections were formed that will lead to doing business together. We've seen clear benefits. First, significantly higher conversion rates. When you engage people emotionally, cognitively, and behaviorally, it translates into real business gains. Second, ROX delivers larger average deal sizes. And third, it accelerates your sales cycle, helping you close deals faster and more efficiently. So what makes 8.6 so important? This score indicates that you've successfully created an environment where business relationships are primed to form before any actual business has been conducted. It's predictive, not reflective. These results are proof that a well-implemented ROX strategy is powerful. And here are some creative examples that demonstrate different HAM elements in action. And these are based on some of the clients we've had. In the food industry, we've seen companies use mascots to engage with attendees. And in this instance, for every selfie taken and tweeted, the attendee gets a free ice cream cone. And food naturally elicits emotion, and mascots can create an element of acceptance and adventure. And in these instances, people actually return to the booth multiple times for ice cream, created repeated engagement. In the pet industry, we've seen companies create live photo collages on large LED screens. Attendees post their pets' photos on the exhibiting company's social media page in exchange for posting their dog or cat's picture front and center on a large screen in the booth. As more and more people post the larger the collage. Eventually, your pet would fall off the collage, so people were coming back to place their pet front and center again over and over. Everyone loves their pet, and when your pet is accepted, you feel accepted. It also drove significant social media activity. And I don't know about you guys, but I have 2 dogs that I love, and I have a feeling I would go back multiple times to make sure my dogs are front and center on the screen.
Absolutely. Betsy, I'm right there with you. I might walk by every single couple of minutes just to make sure Mav doesn't get off the screen.
Yeah. Custom gamification is another one. It can actually be a great way to tap into people's emotions. Games can educate attendees and create sincere aha moments related to why your company might be different from its competitors. They also help people conceptualize your business, and games evoke adventure, acceptance, and participation. We've seen clients use physical photo mosaics where photographs are taken of the visitor when they get into the booth space, then printed and posted on a large display wall to create a hidden message when complete. And this helped create adventure, acceptance, and curiosity, and people kept coming back to the booth to see the reveal at the end. And even simpler approaches work. Although this one's not shown on the slide, companies have created coloring book experiences where attendees test products while engaging in creative activities. Simple execution, but it hits adventure, acceptance, and action. And the key is really choosing activities that authentically connect to your ham goals while feeling natural for your company and audience. And there are mistakes that are made. So let's talk about some of the common mistakes that we see. Booth design is important, but it needs to be coupled with interactivity that actually evokes emotion. Make sure your staff is trained on ROX principles. The most beautiful booth won't work if your team doesn't understand the strategy. And we see this often, teams not being trained before a show. Some experiences lack that excitement factor. Your emotion measurements should tie directly to your objectives. And remember, it takes time to see patterns emerge, so don't expect overnight results. As your partner in developing ROX-focused experiences, these are the questions we'll help you work through. If you're not working with a partner, these are still the questions you should be asking yourself and your team before every single show. What emotions do you want an attendee to experience? How will you make prospects feel hopeful about solutions? What adventures or discoveries will you offer? How will you activate participation beyond passive viewing? How will you create acceptance and belonging? And what will motivate them to take the next steps? So when working with ROX clients on ROX implementation, we focus on 4 key areas. First, we assess your current emotional impact and business results to establish a baseline. Second, we design a ham-based solution and experience specifically tailored to your audience and industry. Third, we execute with a trained team using proven systems because strategy without a proper execution falls short every time. And fourth, we help you optimize continuously, refining your approach based on both emotional and business feedback to ensure each show performs better than the last. And our offer to everyone today who joined us is a complimentary consultation with one of our marketing consultants. During the session, we'll walk through the entire ROX process with your specific situation in mind, helping you understand exactly how to implement the framework for your next trade show if you'd like. You'll leave with insights you can apply immediately, which is nice. If you'd like to schedule something or a complimentary consultation, drop your name and email into the chat and we'll connect with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Betsy.
Yeah,
All
thank you.
right, so that is the content for the webinar today, and I'm sure we have some questions. So let me pull that up and we can start with the Q&A.
While you're waiting, Kayla, do you want to go back to the slide
Oh
to
yeah,
see if that
good
changed at
idea.
all?
Sorry, I don't know how to do this any other way. So let's
Sorry,
see
that
what your guys' results
put
are.
you on the spot.
Okay, so nobody cares about the cost per lead. Just kidding. We have 4 that wanted to have numbers of leads generated as their most important message. 2 with brand awareness metrics, and 5 with lead quality and conversations.
Cool.
So my question to you guys is, how do you foresee everyone implementing a more strategy with ROX, and how do you think that that could impact your program? We do have a question. Okay, so this one is, what is the most creative thing that you guys have seen for getting people to interact with your booth?
Our team actually visited an interactive show that had all to do with experience and exhibiting. And one cool thing that they came back and told us about was a Lego section of a company's booth space where you could go to their space and actually create your own avatar out of Legos. So they had multiple people at their booth, and there was like just Legos everywhere, and it was customized to their company. So they had like 5 or 6 different options, and they could create their own little Lego avatar to take with them. I thought
Oh,
that was
that's
cute.
awesome. I love that. I recently was at a show with a client that did digital printing, and it happened to be during Memorial Day weekend. So what they were doing is printing little seals for the Navy, anybody that was a vet. And then you could get your own name or whomever you had in your family or acquaintances that they would give you like a little Navy seal, which I thought was a really cool and unique way, especially during Memorial Day.
Yeah. Another one we had, and gosh, this was a long time ago before ROX was really like a popular thing, but we had a company send empty boxes to potential attendees at the show. And inside said, fill your box when you get to our booth. And so, everybody came to the booth because they wanted the gift that would have gone inside this little box. And by the time they got to the booth, I think it was like maybe a Swiss Army knife or something like that. And it had to do with, the military, I think, or some industry that was kind of connected, that made sense for a Swiss Army knife. So I thought that was kind of a cool idea.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions coming in. So if any questions do arise, I know this is a lot of content and a newer concept, so I'm sure it just kind of needs to set in a little bit. But if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to help you strategize on your program. And then if you are, of course, interested in that complimentary consultation with one of our marketing consultants, please drop your name and email into the chat, and I will get you connected with one of our marketing consultants. For everybody that joined us today, I'll also send out a recording of the webinar so that way you can really digest the information. But please just reach out to us if you do have any questions or if you just need to strategize with somebody on your trade show program. We'll leave the screen up for a little bit to make sure that you have time to drop your name in chat. And I hope everybody has a great Thursday.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.